3 months later, Maya stood in the same crystal clearing where she had first met Cathara, but everything had changed. The clearing now served as the central meeting place for the Xerion Human Cooperative Council, and the ancient amphitheater had been expanded with both human technology and Xerion crystal growing techniques. The morning air hummed with activity as representatives from both species prepared for the day's session. Today would mark the signing of the Xerion Accords, the first treaty in galactic history to establish a planet as a joint protectorate governed equally by two species. Maya Healer, a familiar voice called from behind her. Maya turned to see Cathara approaching, but the alien wolf looked different now. Its fur bore new markings, intricate patterns that designated its new role as ambassador between worlds. The healing Maya had performed in this very clearing had saved more than just one life. It had opened the door to an entirely new form of interstellar relations. "You're ready for the ceremony?" Maya asked. Cathara's expression was thoughtful. "As ready as anyone can be for something that has never happened before. Tell me, do you think your people will honor the agreements?" Maya looked out over the clearing, where humans and Xerion worked side by side preparing for the ceremony. Jake Martinez was directing the setup of translation equipment while consulting with Valthek about proper protocols. Dr. Kim and Whispertail had established a joint medical research facility that was already producing breakthrough treatments. Marcus Thompson's sculptures now incorporated living crystal techniques taught by Theron, creating art that existed at the intersection of two aesthetic traditions. "Some will," Maya said honestly. "Others will fight every step of the way. But we've proven something important here, Cathara. We've shown that cooperation is possible. The past 3 months had not been easy. The colonial authorities' initial response to Chen Wei's first contact report had been skeptical, then alarmed, and finally grudgingly impressed. Corporate representatives had indeed arrived with lawyers and contracts, demanding that mining operations resume immediately. Military advisors had assessed the Xerion as a potential threat to human expansion, but they had also encountered something unprecedented: a united front of human workers and Xerion communities who refused to be divided. Jake Martinez had kept his word, organizing the mining workers into an advocacy group that testified before every colonial authority commission. When corporate lawyers tried to argue that the mining contracts took precedence over first contact protocols, they found themselves facing not just Xerion legal representatives, but human miners who had become passionate advocates for their alien neighbors. The breakthrough had come when Zafira and Dr. Kim jointly presented their preliminary research findings to the Colonial Senate. The technological exchange possibilities were so promising that even the most profit-focused senators could see the long-term benefits of cooperation over exploitation. The war speakers still do not trust easily, Cathara noted, watching as Bloodfang approached the ceremonial area with a group of former warriors who now served as security for the joint sessions. Maya nodded. Bloodfang had become one of the most effective advocates for the peace process, precisely because its initial skepticism gave weight to its eventual endorsement. When the scarred war speaker testified that humans had proven capable of keeping their word, even hardline Xerion factions listened. "Dr. Chen," a familiar voice called out. Maya turned to see Director Harrison Webb approaching, flanked by several officials in colonial authority uniforms. Webb had fought the peace process every step of the way, and his presence at today's ceremony was a reminder that not all humans supported the new relationship with the Xerion. "Director Webb," Maya replied coolly. "I'm surprised to see you here." Webb's expression was sour. "The colonial authority requires my attendance as the official representative of human scientific interests on Xerion. I want to make it clear that I still consider this entire process to be a dangerous mistake." Before Maya could respond, Cathara stepped forward. Over the past months, the alien wolf had learned to read human body language with disturbing accuracy. "Director Webb of Many Doubts," Cathara said formally, "your concerns have been noted in all official records, but perhaps you would be willing to observe what your people and mine have accomplished together before declaring it a mistake." Webb looked irritated at being addressed directly by a Xerion, but protocol required him to respond civilly. "Very well. Show me these supposed accomplishments." Maya smiled as Cathara led Webb toward a series of demonstration areas that had been set up around the clearing. The past 3 months had been remarkably productive, Despite the political challenges, the first stop was the Joint Energy Research Station, where human engineers and Xerion crystal shapers had developed a new form of power generation that actually enhanced local ecosystems while producing clean energy. The technology was already being tested on 3 other human colonies, with promising results. Next, they visited the Combined Cultural Center, where human children and young Xerion learned together through educational programs that incorporated both species' knowledge and perspectives. Maya watched Webb's expression soften slightly as he observed a group of human kids working with Xerion youngsters to solve complex mathematical problems using crystal pattern logic. The medical research facility was perhaps the most impressive achievement. Dr. Kim and Whispertail had developed treatments for several diseases that affected both species, including a breakthrough therapy for the neurological condition that had been slowly killing elderly Xerion. Human longevity treatments adapted using Xerion biological knowledge had shown remarkable promise in early trials, but it was the agricultural projects that finally seemed to crack Webb's skepticism. Human farming techniques modified using Xerion ecological knowledge had produced crop yields that exceeded anything achieved on comparable colony worlds. More importantly, the farming actually improved the planet's ecosystem rather than depleting it. The economic projections, Cathara explained as they walked through the experimental fields, show that cooperative development will produce over 3 times the long-term value of mining operations, with 0 environmental damage. Webb was quiet for a long moment. The logistics are impressive, he admitted grudgingly. But what happens when disputes arise? When human and Xerion interest conflict? Maya had been waiting for this question. We've already faced that situation several times. The arbitration protocols we've developed have resolved every conflict so far. She led Webb to the final demonstration area, where the Joint Council was conducting a practice session of their dispute resolution process. A minor disagreement between human atmospheric processors and Xerion weather singers about atmospheric modification had been resolved through a combination of scientific analysis and traditional Xerion environmental wisdom. Both species contribute their strengths, Maya explained. Humans bring technological innovation and systematic analysis. Xerion bring ecological understanding and long-term perspective. Neither approach is sufficient alone, but together they're remarkably effective. Webb watched the proceedings with growing thoughtfulness. And the Colonial Senate has approved this model for other worlds. 3 more joint protectorates are being established this year, Maya confirmed. The Xerion Accords are becoming a template for first contact situations throughout the sector. As the official ceremony began, Maya found herself standing between 2 worlds in more ways than one. She watched as Jake Martinez and Veltec jointly signed the accords that would govern Xerion for generations to come. Dr. Kim and Whispertail presented their research findings to delegates from dozens of worlds. Bloodfang and 3 human former miners were sworn in as the first interspecies peacekeeping force in galactic history. But Maya's attention kept returning to a simple moment she had witnessed that morning. A young Xerion child, barely old enough to speak, had fallen and scraped its knee near the human quarters. Without hesitation, Sarah Williams had knelt down and bandaged the wound while humming a lullaby. The child's mother had approached cautiously, then knelt beside Sarah to add her own voice to the song. It was such a small thing, but it represented everything they had accomplished. 2 species who had nearly gone to war were now raising their children together, sharing their songs, their knowledge, and their hopes for the future. Cathara approached as the ceremony concluded. The signing is complete. Our worlds are officially bound together in cooperation. Maya nodded, watching as humans and Xerions celebrated together around the clearing. It's just the beginning, isn't it? This is going to change everything about how species interact in this galaxy. Perhaps, Cathara agreed, but I think the most important change has already happened. We have proven that different peoples can choose to understand each other rather than fear each other. As the celebration continued into the alien night, Maya reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. It had started with a simple act of compassion, one young woman choosing to help a suffering creature rather than walking away. From that small beginning had grown something extraordinary, a new model for interstellar civilization based on cooperation rather than domination. Director Webb approached them as the festivities continued. Doctor, the next hour transformed the mining site into something unprecedented in human history. A makeshift embassy where two species prepared to face their own extremists together. Jake Martinez proved to be a natural leader in crisis situations. Within minutes, he had organized his workers into teams. Some activated the mining site's emergency lighting systems, flooding the area with bright illumination that would prevent anyone from claiming they hadn't seen what was happening. Others moved the heavy equipment into defensive positions, not as weapons, but as barriers to protect civilians from any violence that might erupt. Maya watched in amazement as off-duty workers began arriving in response to Sarah's emergency calls. Most came expecting an industrial accident or equipment failure. Instead, they found their colleagues standing alongside alien beings, working together to prepare for what might be the most important moment in both species' history. Meanwhile, Valthek had sent Skyfall racing back to the Crystal City with an urgent message. Peaceful Xerion began emerging from the darkness in groups of 5 or 10, their bioluminescent fur creating pools of soft light as they gathered near the mining site. Elders, craftspeople, teachers, young hunters, and family groups all came to witness what their council of elders hoped would be a moment of peaceful contact. Dr. Kim had set up a medical station, working alongside Whispertail to prepare for potential injuries. The Xerion healer's knowledge of biological systems complemented her human medical training perfectly, and Maya realized they were witnessing the first interspecies medical collaboration in this sector of the galaxy. "Contact," Zephyra announced suddenly, pointing toward the crystal caves that dotted the landscape around the mining site. The war speakers emerge. From 3 different cave entrances, groups of Xerion warriors began appearing. These were different from the peaceful delegation that had gathered at the mining site. Their fur was darker, their movements more aggressive, and they carried weapons that hummed with contained energy. Maya could see the crystalline cutting tools that could slice through metal, and the net launchers that could incapacitate multiple targets. At the head of the largest group strode a massive Xerion, whose scarred hide spoke of many battles. When it saw the mixed gathering of humans and peaceful Xerion around the mining site, it stopped abruptly and let out a howl of rage that echoed across the landscape. "Bloodfang," Cathara said grimly, war speaker of the eastern reaches. It lost many packmates to human machines. Bloodfang and its warriors approached to within 50 meters of the mining site before stopping. The war speaker's voice carried clearly in the still air, speaking in the complex tonal language of the Xerion. Maya couldn't understand the words, but the anger and contempt were unmistakable. Valthek stepped forward to respond, but Jake Martinez surprised everyone by moving to stand beside the elderly Xerion. "Zephyra," he called, "translate for me." The young Xerion moved to his side. "Speak, Jake, friend of miners. I will carry your words." Jake's voice was steady as he addressed the war speakers. "Bloodfang of the eastern reaches, I am Jake Martinez, foreman of the mining operation. I speak for the humans who work this site." Zephyra translated rapidly, and Bloodfang's response came back like a growl of thunder. "It says you are invaders who poison the world and must be driven away or destroyed," Zephyra translated. "Tell Bloodfang that it's right," Jake said, his words causing gasps from both humans and Xerion. "We did invade. We didn't know this world was inhabited, but ignorance doesn't excuse the damage we've caused." Bloodfang's warriors stirred restlessly as Zephyra conveyed Jake's words. This was clearly not the response they had expected. Jake continued, "But tell Bloodfang that we can choose what happens next. We can fight, and many will die on both sides, including innocents." He gestured to the mixed crowd behind him. "Or we can prove that both our species are capable of something better." Maya held her breath as Bloodfang considered Jake's words. The war speaker's scarred face was unreadable, but she could see the conflict in its posture. Around the mining site, humans and peaceful Xerion stood together, many of them holding hands or touching in gestures of mutual support. Then Bloodfang did something that surprised everyone. It approached alone, leaving its warriors behind until it stood just a few meters from Jake and Valthek. "You speak of choice," Bloodfang said in heavily accented English. "But your people have made their choice. They tear our world apart for profit." Jake nodded grimly. "Some of us have. But look around you, Bloodfang. Look at what's happening right here, right now." Maya realized what Jake was doing. He wasn't trying to convince Bloodfang with words alone. He was showing the war speaker something that had never existed before. A community of humans and Xerion working together, protecting each other, treating each other as equals. Marcus Thompson chose that moment to approach Bloodfang, carrying one of his metal sculptures. "This is made from materials we mined from your world," he said through Zephyr's translation. "I want to give it back to you, changed into something beautiful." The sculpture was a stylized representation of a crystal tree, crafted from rare metals and polished to a mirror shine. Bloodfang examined it with obvious surprise, its clawed fingers tracing the intricate details. "Your people create beauty from destruction?" Bloodfang asked. "When we remember who we really are," Marcus replied. Dr. Kim stepped forward next. "Bloodfang, I've been studying the biological compatibility between our species. With cooperation, we could eliminate most diseases that affect both humans and Xerion. Your people could live longer, healthier lives." Whispertail added its own voice to the conversation. "The Sky People's knowledge of distant worlds could help us understand the great patterns that connect all life. Together, we could heal worlds that have been damaged." Slowly, more voices joined the conversation. Human workers spoke of their desire to explore and learn rather than simply exploit. Xerion crafters described technologies that could revolutionize human understanding of sustainable development. Scientists from both species outlined research projects that could benefit everyone. Maya watched Bloodfang's expression change as it listened to the growing chorus of cooperation. The war speaker's anger was still there, but it was being challenged by something else: hope. Then Chen Wei made an announcement that changed everything. "I've been in contact with the Colonial Authority," he said loudly. "I filed an official first contact report 20 minutes ago." Bloodfang whirled to face him, tension crackling through the air. "What does this mean?" Jake answered before Chen Wei could respond. "It means that as of right now, this planet is under diplomatic protection. No more mining until formal contact protocols are established. The Colonial Authority is sending negotiators, not soldiers." Maya felt a surge of hope, but Bloodfang's response brought her back to reality. "And if your negotiators decide our world is still worth more as a mine than as a home?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Maya realized that despite everything they had accomplished tonight, the real test was still to come. The Colonial Authority would indeed send negotiators, but they would also send corporate representatives, military advisors, and politicians who might see the Xerion as obstacles to profit rather than partners in progress. But Jake Martinez proved once again that ordinary people could rise to extraordinary circumstances. "Then we'll stand together and tell them they're wrong," he said simply. "All of us, human and Xerion, miner and elder, warrior and healer, because some things are more important than profit. And one of them is proving that different species can choose cooperation over conflict." Bloodfang stared at Jake for a long moment, then looked around at the mixed crowd of humans and Xerion who had gathered to witness this historic moment. Maya could see the war speaker weighing everything it had heard against the anger and grief that had driven it to consider violence. Finally, Bloodfang spoke. "Your words are easy to say, Jake of Texas. Will you still speak them when your corporate masters arrive with contracts and lawyers?" Jake's grin was fierce and determined. "Try me." The war speaker's response would determine whether this first contact ended in cooperation or catastrophe. Around them, two species held their breath and waited to see if peace was possible between beings who had never imagined they would meet as equals. The mining site at night was a symphony of industrial noise and harsh artificial light. Massive excavation machines continued their work around the clock, their plasma cutters carving through crystal formations that Maya now knew were ancient architectural marvels. The sight filled her with a mixture of rage and sadness. Maya, Dr. Kim, Cathera, and Zafira crouched behind a ridge overlooking the facility. 3 other Xerion had volunteered to join them. An elder craftsman named Theron, whose fur bore intricate patterns that marked him as a master artist. A young hunter called Skyfall, who moved with liquid grace and Whispertail. A Xerion who specialized in understanding the songs of growing things. "The security perimeter extends 200 meters from the main facilities," Dr. Kim whispered, consulting her tablet. "I can disable the sensors in sections, but we'll only have a 10-minute window before the system automatically resets." Zephyrus studied the human workers moving between the buildings. "So many of them. How will we choose who to approach first?" Maya had been thinking about this problem all day. "We don't approach them individually. We approach them as a group. During shift change, when they're all gathered in the staging area, maximum witnesses, minimum chance for anyone to act rashly. Cathera's ears swiveled nervously. What if they flee? Or attack? Then we retreat immediately, Maya said firmly. No one gets hurt. We abort and try to find another way. But privately, Maya knew there might not be another way. Intelligence reports indicated that the military transport would arrive tomorrow evening, and the war speakers were gathering in increasing numbers. This might be their only chance to prevent disaster. Dr. Kim activated her hacking program, and one by one the security sensors around the perimeter went dark. Go, she whispered. 10 minutes. The group moved swiftly across the open ground with Skyfall and Cathera leading the way. Despite their size, the Zarian moved with supernatural grace, their feet finding silent purchase on surfaces that would have sent a human tumbling. As they approached the staging area, Maya could hear human voices raised in conversation. The night shift workers were gathering for their briefing, just as she had hoped. Through the windows of the main building, she could see perhaps 50 people clustered around a foreman who was pointing at charts and diagrams. Remember? Maya whispered to her companions. Slow movements, hands visible, voices calm. Let me speak first. She took a deep breath and stepped into the light spilling from the building's entrance. One by one, her alien companions joined her, forming a loose semicircle that looked non-threatening but allowed for quick retreat if necessary. The effect on the human workers was immediate and dramatic. Conversation stopped mid-sentence as one by one, people noticed the figures standing quietly in the doorway. Someone dropped a coffee cup, the sound of shattering ceramic impossibly loud in the sudden silence. Please don't be afraid, Maya said clearly, her voice carrying in the stillness. My name is Dr. Maya Chen, xenobiologist from Research Station Kepler 442b. These are the people whose world we've been mining. They've come to talk. For a moment, nobody moved. Then a burly foreman named Jake Martinez, whom Maya recognized from the station's personnel files, stepped forward. His hand rested on the plasma cutter at his belt, but he didn't draw it. People, he said, his voice skeptical but curious. They look like animals to me. Zafira stepped forward gracefully. When she spoke, her English was clear and precise, with just enough alien accent to make it exotic rather than threatening. We are no more animals than you are. Jake Martinez of Earth Place called Texas. We have watched you and learned your names, your customs, your longing for the homes you left behind among distant stars. The silence that followed was deafening. Jake's hand fell away from his weapon entirely, and Maya could see the shock and wonder spreading across his face. You know my name? How? Cathera spoke next, its deeper voice resonating through the building. We know many things. We know that Sarah Williams misses her daughter's birthday celebrations. We know that Chen Wei sends most of his earnings to support his sick mother. We know that Marcus Thompson builds small sculptures from scrap metal because creating beauty helps him remember who he is. A woman near the back of the crowd gasped. That's impossible. How could you know about Marcus's art? Whispertail answered softly. Because we listen, we watch. We care about those who share our world even when they do not know we exist. Maya seized the moment. They've been living here for thousands of years. This isn't an empty planet we've been mining. It's their home. Their cities, their sacred sites, their burial grounds. The foreman looked stricken. Cities? But the surveys showed nothing. Theron moved to one of the workstations and picked up a piece of crystal that had been marked for processing. His clawed hands moved over its surface with practiced skill, and the crystal began to glow with inner light, revealing intricate patterns hidden within. This is not mere stone, he said gently. This is part of the song wall of the Eastern Quarter, where our young ones learn the history of our people. Each crystal holds the memory of a generation. Marcus Thompson, the sculptor Cathera had mentioned, pushed through the crowd to get a closer look. The patterns, they're not natural formations. They're carved, designed. He looked up at Theron with awe. How old are they? This section was grown during the reign of Moon Whisper the Wise, 800 of your years ago. But the foundation stones sing of times when your people still walked only on one world. Dr. Kim chose that moment to enter the building, her medical scanner in hand. I've been monitoring their life signs, she announced to the crowd. They're showing the same stress responses as humans in a dangerous situation. They're as afraid of us as we are of them. Jake Martinez looked around at his workers, many of whom were staring at the Zirian with expressions of fascination rather than fear. If you're really people, if this is really your world, why didn't you contact us before? Why let us start mining? Felthek's voice came from the doorway, where the elder had quietly joined them. Because we have seen what happens when your people encounter those they consider threats. We hoped you would take only what you needed and leave. We hoped we would remain hidden until you departed. But you're not hidden anymore, Jake said slowly. And we're not leaving, are we? The company has a 20-year mining contract. Maya felt her heart sink. Even if they could convince the workers to stop mining, the colonial authority would simply send replacements. The contract was worth billions of credits, and corporations didn't abandon that kind of investment easily. But then something unexpected happened. Sarah Williams, the woman who missed her daughter's birthdays, stepped forward. Jake, we can't keep doing this. Not if we're destroying their homes. Sarah's right, Marcus added, his eyes still fixed on the glowing crystal in Theron's hands. This isn't just mining anymore. It's like bulldozing the Louvre. Jake looked conflicted. I understand how you feel, but we have contracts, obligations. The company isn't going to just shut down because we ask nicely. Kithara moved closer to Jake, its presence somehow both powerful and gentle. Your young ones learn from stories, yes? Stories of heroes who choose what is right over what is easy? Yeah, Jake said quietly. Yeah, they do. Then perhaps it is time for you to become the heroes in such a story. Maya watched as something shifted in the room's atmosphere. The initial fear and shock were giving way to something else entirely. Recognition. These human workers were seeing themselves reflected in the Zarian's obvious intelligence. Their care for family and home, their desperate desire to protect what they loved. Chen Wei, the worker who sent money to his sick mother, spoke up suddenly. What if we don't shut down? What if we find another way? All eyes turned to him. Explain, Maya said. The Zirian have technology we've never seen before. Living crystal that grows into buildings, energy systems that enhance the environment instead of destroying it. That's worth more than any mining operation. Zephyr's ears perked up with interest. You would trade knowledge instead of taking resources? Why not? Chenwei grew more excited as he spoke. Think about it. We're supposed to be exploring new worlds to expand human knowledge and capability. Well, here's a whole civilization with technologies we can barely imagine. That's worth reporting to the colonial authority. Dr. Kim stepped forward. He's right. A peaceful first contact with a technologically advanced species would be the discovery of the century. The scientific and cultural exchange opportunities alone would justify canceling the mining contract. Jake Martinez was quiet for a long moment, clearly wrestling with the decision. Maya could see the conflict in his face, his responsibility to his workers and their families, his obligation to the company that employed them, and his growing recognition that they were facing a moral crisis that transcended normal business considerations. Finally, he spoke. If we do this, if we report a first contact situation, there's no going back. The company will investigate, the government will get involved, everything changes. Everything has already changed, Maya said gently. The question is whether we guide that change or let others control it. Skyfall, who had been silent throughout the exchange, suddenly tensed. Its ears swiveled toward the darkness beyond the mining site, and it made a... Maya's plan was audacious in its simplicity. Instead of trying to convince the colonial authority to stop the mining operation, she would demonstrate the intelligence of the Zirian people directly to the human workers on the ground. If she could get the miners and engineers to witness firsthand the sophisticated civilization they were unknowingly destroying, their own consciences would force them to act. The problem is getting close enough to the mining site without triggering the security systems, Maya explained to the assembled group of Zirian elders. The automated defenses will see your people as hostile wildlife. Kithara shifted restlessly beside her. The war speakers say this proves your people cannot be trusted. They prepare to attack before your military arrives. Velthek's expression was troubled. Young Kithara speaks truth. Already 3 packs have left the council's guidance. They gather in the deep caverns, calling for all Zarian to join them in driving the Sky People from our world. Maya felt the pressure of limited time weighing on her. Every hour that passed brought them closer to open conflict. What if we could show the miners that you're not wildlife at all? That you're people with families and culture and wisdom? Dr. Kim had been studying the displays on the crystalline walls. Maya, look at this. They have historical records going back thousands of years. Art, music, scientific discoveries. This is a treasure trove of knowledge. One of the younger Zerion, whose fur was a brilliant silver color, approached them. When it spoke, its English was nearly perfect with only the slightest accent. I am Zephyra, student of Sky Voices. I have studied your people's communications for many seasons. I can speak your language well. Maya turned to Zephyra with interest. You've been monitoring our transmissions? Learning, Zephyra corrected gently. We wish to understand your people before making contact. Your entertainment broadcast taught us much about human nature. Belthek made a disapproving sound. Perhaps too much. The violence in your stories troubles many of our people. But there's more than violence in our stories, Maya said urgently. There's love, sacrifice, redemption. The best of humanity shows through in our art just like yours does. She gestured to the beautiful patterns flowing across the walls. Zephyra nodded enthusiastically. Yes, your stories of friendship between different species gave me hope that understanding was possible. Maya felt an idea forming. Zephyra, how many of your people can speak English as well as you do? Perhaps 20 in our settlement. More in the other packs. And how many humans work at the mining site? Dr. Kim answered. About 200 miners, engineers, and support staff. Most of them are just regular people trying to make a living. They're not soldiers or politicians. Maya turned to Kethera. You said the war speakers are gathering in the deep caverns. How long before they're ready to attack? 2 days, perhaps 3. The Council of Elders still speaks for peace, but their voices grow weaker. With each hour, the Earth Tearers continue their work. Maya's plan crystallized in her mind. It was risky and would require perfect timing, but it might be their only chance to prevent a war. We're going to stage a first contact scenario, she announced, but not between governments or military forces. Between ordinary people, workers who just want to go home to their families, and Xerion who want to protect their homes. Valtek's ancient eyes studied her carefully. Explain. The mining crews work in shifts. During the night shift change, there's a 20-minute window when most of the workers are gathered in the main staging area. We arrange for a small group of Xerion to approach openly, with me and Dr. Kim as intermediaries. That's incredibly dangerous, Dr. Kim protested. If it goes wrong, if someone panics and starts shooting. If we do nothing, shooting starts anyway in 2 days. Maya replied grimly. At least this way we control the circumstances. Kethera stepped forward. I will go with you, Maya healer. You saved my life. I trust you with it again. Zephyra immediately volunteered as well, and I will translate and help the Sky people understand our words. Over the next several hours, Maya and Dr. Kim worked with Valtek and the other elders to plan every detail of the encounter. They would need to disable the automated security systems temporarily, approach during shift change when tensions were lowest, and somehow convey the intelligence and peaceful intentions of the Xerion people in a matter of minutes. As they planned, Maya learned more about the remarkable civilization that humanity had stumbled onto. The Xerion had developed a form of biotechnology that allowed them to grow their cities from living crystal, which explained why human sensors had failed to detect them. They had achieved sustainable energy through a process that actually enhanced the planet's ecosystem rather than depleting it. Your people could learn much from ours, Valtek said during a break in their planning, and we from yours. Your mathematics and engineering show great promise, though your understanding of biological systems needs work. If this works, Maya said, maybe our species will have the chance to learn from each other. But if it fails, both our peoples will pay the price for generations, Beltek finished solemnly. As the time for their desperate gambit approached, Maya found herself alone with Kethera near the edge of the Crystal City. The alien wolf had been unusually quiet, and Maya could sense its internal struggle. Are you having second thoughts? She asked gently. Kethera's response came slowly, each word carefully chosen. I think of my packmates who died when your Earth Tearers poisoned the crystal springs. I think of young ones who grow sick from the poisons in the air. It would be easier to hate all humans. Maya felt a stab of guilt. I'm sorry. I know our arrival has brought suffering to your people. But then I think of you kneeling in the forest offering help to a stranger who could have killed you. Kethera's voice grew stronger. Your people have great capacity for both creation and destruction. Perhaps that is why this choice matters so much. As they prepared to leave for the mining site, Maya reflected on what Kethera had said. Humanity had indeed spread across the galaxy, leaving a trail of both wonders and tragedies in its wake. The next few hours would determine whether they added another tragedy to that list, or whether they could demonstrate the better angels of human nature. Dr. Kim approached them, carrying the equipment they would need to temporarily disable the mining site's security systems. "It's time," she said simply. Maya took a deep breath and looked out at the Crystal City one last time. Somewhere in the distance, the war speakers were gathering, preparing for a battle that could end two civilizations. In a few hours, she would either be celebrating the beginning of a new era of cooperation between species, or mourning the start of an interstellar war. "Let's go make history," she said, and led her unlikely team of peacemakers into the alien night. The alien wolf's attempt to speak Maya's name sent chills down her spine. The sound was rough and unfamiliar, filtered through anatomy never meant to produce human speech, but the intent was unmistakable. This creature was not just intelligent, it was actively trying to communicate with her in her own language. "Maya," the creature tried again, its voice a deep rumble that seemed to come from its chest rather than its throat. Dr. Kim stared in fascination. "The vocal structures are completely different from ours, but it's adapting. Learning, this is unprecedented." Maya knelt beside the creature, her heart racing with excitement and fear in equal measure. "Can you understand me?" The alien wolf nodded, a gesture so human-like that it was almost unsettling. Then it struggled to its feet, moving carefully as the anesthesia wore off. Maya could see that the swelling in its jaw had already begun to subside, and the creature's posture indicated significantly less pain. "Thank you," the creature said, the words barely recognizable but clearly intentional. Dr. Kim gripped Maya's arm. "We have to tell Webb. This changes everything. The mining operation has to stop immediately." Before Maya could respond, the alien wolf made a sharp sound that was clearly a warning. Its ears, which Maya now noticed were more mobile than any Earth creature's, swiveled toward the direction of the research station. In the distance, they could hear the heavy rumble of vehicles approaching. "Hide," the creature said urgently, its pronunciation improving with each word. "Dangerous. They come." Maya and Dr. Kim gathered their equipment quickly and followed the alien wolf deeper into the crystal forest. The creature moved with surprising grace despite its recent surgery, leading them through paths that seemed to exist only for those who knew where to look. As they traveled, Maya realized that the crystal formations around them weren't natural. They had been shaped, grown, and arranged with purpose. The entire forest was actually a vast city, its buildings and structures so perfectly integrated with the natural environment that human sensors had completely missed them. "This is incredible," Dr. Kim whispered as they passed through what was clearly a residential area. "They're not just intelligent. They're master architects. They've created a civilization that exists in perfect harmony with their ecosystem." The alien wolf led them to a large crystalline structure that hummed with a soft, musical energy. As they approached, other creatures emerged from the building. They were similar to their guide but varied in size and coloration. All of them watched the two humans with curious but cautious eyes. One of the creatures, larger than the others and with markings that suggested age and wisdom, approached them. When it spoke, its voice was deeper and more resonant than their guide's, but the words were in the same alien language they had heard before. Their guide responded in kind, gesturing toward Maya and Dr. Kim. Maya caught what sounded like her name in the exchange, along with words that might have meant healer or helper. The elder creature studied Maya for a long moment, then spoke in carefully pronounced English. "You are the one who eased Cathara's pain." Maya blinked in surprise. "Cathara? Is that your name?" she asked their guide. The alien wolf they had helped nodded. "I am Cathara, hunter-healer of the Northern Pack. This is Vailthek, our elder speaker." Vailthek's ancient eyes fixed on Maya with an intensity that made her feel as though her soul was being weighed. "Your people have come to our world with great machines that tear the earth and poison the waters. We have tried to make them stop, but they do not listen. The equipment malfunctions," Dr. Kim said suddenly. "You've been sabotaging the mining operation." "We defend our home," Vailthek replied with dignity. "But we do not wish to harm your people. We hoped they would understand and leave." Maya felt a surge of anger at the colonial authorities' failure to recognize the signs of intelligent life. "They don't know you exist. Our surveys missed your civilization entirely. Cathara made a sound that might have been laughter. Your machines look for metal and electricity. We build with living crystal and shape energy itself. To your sensors, we are invisible. Valthek gestured for them to follow him into the crystalline building. Inside, Maya gasped at what she saw. The walls were alive with flowing patterns of light, displaying what appeared to be star maps, historical records, and complex mathematical equations. The Xerian civilization was far more advanced than humanity had realized. We have watched your species for many seasons, Valthek explained as they walked through chambers filled with wonders. You are young and often violent, but you show great potential. Some among us hoped we could learn from each other. Some, Dr. Kim asked. Valthek's expression grew grave. Others believe you are too dangerous to trust. The war speakers gain more followers each day as your machines destroy sacred sites and poison our young. They wish to drive all humans from our world. Maya felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. What can we do? How can we stop this from turning into a war? Cathara moved closer to Maya, its presence somehow comforting. You showed kindness to one who was suffering. You took great risk to help, expecting nothing in return. This is not common among the humans we have observed. But it's not unique either, Maya said firmly. Humans are capable of great compassion and understanding. We just need to overcome our fear of the unknown. Valthek studied her for another long moment. Perhaps. But time grows short. Your military forces arrive soon, and the war speakers prepare for battle. If shooting begins, many will die on both sides. Maya's mind raced through possibilities. She couldn't contact the colonial authority directly. They would never believe her claims without proof, and any attempt to provide that proof would likely result in the capture and study of the Xerion people. But she couldn't stand by and watch two civilizations destroy each other either. There might be another way, she said slowly. But I'll need your help, and it will require all of us to take enormous risks. Cathara stepped forward. Speak your plan, Maya Healer. I owe you a life debt, and I will follow where you lead. Valthek raised a clawed hand. As will the Council of Elders if your plan offers hope for peace. Dr. Kim looked at Maya with a mixture of admiration and concern. Whatever you're thinking, Maya, remember that we're talking about first contact between two civilizations. The consequences of getting this wrong could be catastrophic. Maya nodded grimly. The consequences of doing nothing will be worse. We have maybe 48 hours before the military arrives. That's not enough time for official channels or diplomatic protocols. We're going to have to improvise. As she began to outline her desperate plan, Maya realized that she was about to test one of humanity's greatest strengths, the ability to find common ground with beings completely unlike themselves. It was a trait that had allowed humans to build a vast interstellar civilization, but it had never been tested under circumstances quite like these. The fate of two species now rested in the hands of a young xenobiologist, a small-town doctor, and an alien wolf who had learned to trust the kindness of strangers. Maya's medical scanner beeped softly as it completed its analysis of the alien wolf's condition. The readings confirmed her suspicions. A severely obsessed tooth had created a dangerous infection that was spreading through the creature's jaw. Without immediate treatment, the infection would reach the brain within days. The creature remained perfectly still as Maya examined the readings, though she could see the pain in its eyes. What amazed her most was the level of trust it was showing. In her years of studying animal behavior, she had never seen a wild creature, especially one clearly suffering, remain so calm around a human. I can help you, Maya whispered, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was contemplating. But I'll need to get some equipment from the station. As if understanding her words, the alien wolf lifted its head and made a sound deep in its chest. It wasn't a growl or a whine, but something more complex. Almost like speech, but in frequencies that Maya's human ears could barely detect. Maya began to back away slowly, keeping her movements calm and predictable. I'll be back, she promised. I won't let you die. The journey back to the research station took on an urgency that had Maya's heart pounding. She had to help the creature, but she also knew that if Dr. Webb discovered what she had found, he would immediately contact the colonial authority. They would want to capture the creature for study or worse, classify it as a threat to be eliminated. Maya slipped back into the station's medical bay and began gathering supplies. She needed antibiotics, surgical tools, and a portable anesthesia unit. As she worked, her mind raced with the implications of her discovery. If there was one intelligent creature on Zerion, there were likely others. The mining operation wasn't just destroying an ecosystem. It was destroying a civilization. Working late, Dr. Chen? Maya spun around to find Dr. Sarah Kim, the station's chief medical officer, standing in the doorway. The older woman's expression was curious rather than suspicious, which gave Maya hope. "I couldn't sleep," Maya said, which was technically true. "I've been thinking about those equipment malfunctions. What if they're not random? What if something is trying to communicate with us?" Dr. Kim raised an eyebrow. "That's quite a leap. What evidence do you have?" Maya took a deep breath. She had always respected Dr. Kim's integrity and compassion. If anyone would understand, it would be her. "Sarah, what if I told you I found proof of intelligent life on Zerion? What would you do?" The medical officer's expression grew serious. "I would follow my oath as a doctor to do no harm." "Why are you asking me this, Maya?" Over the next 10 minutes, Maya told Dr. Kim everything. She described the creature in the forest, its obvious intelligence, and its current medical crisis. To her relief, Dr. Kim didn't dismiss her claims or threaten to report her to Webb. "Show me," Dr. Kim said simply. Together, they gathered the necessary medical supplies and headed back into the alien night. Dr. Kim followed Maya through the crystal forest, her medical training evident in how quickly she adapted to the challenging terrain. When they reached the clearing, the alien wolf was exactly where Maya had left it. The creature was weaker now, its breathing labored, but it raised its head when it saw Maya return. "Dear God," Dr. Kim breathed. "It's magnificent." The creature's eyes shifted to Dr. Kim, studying her with the same intensity it had shown Maya. After a moment, it made that complex sound again, and Dr. Kim's eyes widened in recognition. "That's not random vocalization," she said. "There's structure to it. Syntax. Maya, this creature is trying to talk to us." Working together, the two women set up their equipment. The portable anesthesia unit would allow them to sedate the creature safely while performing the necessary surgery. Maya had performed similar procedures on Earth animals, but never on an alien species. She would have to trust her instincts and adapt her techniques. The alien wolf seemed to understand what they were trying to do. When Maya showed it the anesthesia mask, the creature looked at it for a long moment, then deliberately lowered its head to allow her to place it over its muzzle. "It's consenting to treatment," Dr. Kim said in amazement. "This level of understanding. Maya, we're not just looking at intelligence, we're looking at wisdom." As the anesthesia took effect and the creature's breathing became deep and regular, Maya prepared for the surgery. Her hands were steady as she made the necessary incisions to drain the abscess and remove the infected tooth. The anatomy was different from Earth mammals, but similar enough that her training served her well. Throughout the procedure, Dr. Kim monitored the creature's vital signs and assisted with the surgery. Both women worked with the focused intensity of professionals, but Maya could see the wonder in her colleagues' eyes. They were making history. The surgery took 3 hours. When it was finished, Maya had successfully removed the infected tooth and drained the abscess. She had also discovered something remarkable. The creature's teeth showed signs of deliberate modification. Carved symbols decorated several of the molars, too precise and meaningful to be natural wear. "These are tool marks," Dr. Kim said, examining the extracted tooth. "This creature, or others like it, have technology. They have culture." As the alien wolf began to wake from the anesthesia, Maya found herself face to face with a choice that would define the rest of her life. She could report the discovery to Dr. Webb and the Colonial Authority, following proper protocol. The creature would be studied, its people would be contacted through official channels, and humanity would gain a new alien ally through the established diplomatic process. Or she could recognize that the mining operation was an act of war against an intelligent species, and that the proper diplomatic channels had already failed before they had even begun. The creature's eyes opened, clearer now and free of pain. It looked at Maya with an expression of gratitude that transcended species barriers. Then it did something that made Maya's breath catch in her throat. It reached out with one clawed hand and gently touched her face, making that complex sound again. But this time Maya heard something different in it, something that sounded almost like her name. Maya Chen pressed her face against the cold observation deck window of Research Station Kepler 442b. The alien wilderness stretched endlessly before her, painted in shades of purple and silver under the binary suns. At 19, she was the youngest xenobiologist ever assigned to a frontier station. But her gentle nature and intuitive understanding of alien creatures had already made her invaluable to the research team. The planet Zerion was supposed to be uninhabited. The initial surveys had detected no signs of intelligent life, only primitive flora, and the occasional glimpse of what appeared to be large, predatory creatures in the dense crystalline forests. That's why the Terran Colonial Authority had approved the establishment of a mining operation alongside the research station. Maya watched the massive excavation machines tear into the planet's surface, their plasma cutters carving deep wounds into the earth. Something about the operation felt wrong to her, though she couldn't articulate why. The other researchers dismissed her concerns as typical human sentimentality, but Maya had learned to trust her instincts when it came to alien ecosystems. A movement in the tree line caught her attention. Something large and dark shifted between the towering crystal formations that served as trees on this world. Maya grabbed her binoculars and focused on the spot. For just a moment she thought she saw eyes watching the station, not the simple instinct-driven gaze of an animal, but something deeper, something intelligent. Dr. Harrison Webb, the station commander, entered the observation deck with his usual heavy footsteps. The middle-aged man had little patience for what he called Maya's emotional attachments to their research subjects. "Still daydreaming about alien puppies, Chen?" he said with barely concealed disdain. "The mining crews reported more equipment malfunctions today. Cables cut clean through, power cores drained overnight. Whatever's out there is getting bolder." Maya lowered her binoculars. "Maybe they're trying to tell us something." Webb snorted. "They're animals, Chen, dangerous ones. The Colonial Authority is sending military support next week. We're going to clear out whatever's causing these problems and get the mining operation back on schedule." That night, Maya couldn't sleep. The thought of military forces hunting the mysterious creatures filled her with dread. She had always believed that humanity's greatest strength wasn't its technology or military might, but its capacity for understanding and compassion. These qualities had allowed humans to form alliances with dozens of alien species across the galaxy, but they were often overlooked in favor of more aggressive approaches. Against station protocols, Maya decided to venture outside alone. She slipped past the automated sentries and into the alien night. The binary moons cast an ethereal glow over the landscape, turning the crystal trees into a forest of prisms. Every step she took felt like walking through a living cathedral. Maya had been walking for nearly an hour when she heard it, a low, mournful sound that seemed to echo from the very stones beneath her feet. It wasn't quite a howl, not quite a song, but something in between. The sound was filled with such pain and longing that it brought tears to her eyes. Following the sound deeper into the forest, Maya eventually came upon a clearing where the crystal trees formed a natural amphitheater. In the center lay a creature unlike anything in the Colonial Authority's databases. It was roughly the size of a large wolf, but its proportions were all wrong for any Earth animal. Its limbs were longer and more graceful, its torso broader. Most striking was its coat, which seemed to shimmer with an inner light, shifting between deep blue and silver as it moved. The creature was clearly in distress. It held its massive head at an awkward angle, and Maya could see that one side of its jaw was grotesquely swollen. As she watched, the creature tried to eat some kind of crystalline fruit that had fallen from the trees, but it could only manage a few bites before pulling away in obvious pain. Maya's heart went out to the suffering animal. She had always possessed an almost supernatural ability to calm distressed creatures, a talent that had served her well in her xenobiology studies. Moving slowly and keeping her hands visible, she approached the clearing. The creature's head snapped up as it detected her presence. Maya found herself staring into eyes that were unmistakably intelligent. They held not just awareness, but wisdom, sorrow, and something that looked almost like hope. This was no simple predator driven by instinct. "Easy," Maya whispered, her voice barely audible in the alien night. "I'm not going to hurt you." The creature watched her with those remarkable eyes as she slowly entered the clearing. Maya could see now that its jaw was severely swollen on the left side, and there was a foul smell that suggested infection. The creature was dying, slowly and painfully. Maya had treated similar conditions in Earth animals during her veterinary training before specializing in xenobiology. It looked like a severe tooth abscess, probably caused by a broken tooth that had become infected. Without treatment, the infection would eventually spread and kill the creature. "Your tooth hurts, doesn't it?" Maya said softly. settling onto her knees a few feet away from the creature. "Let me help you." The alien wolf regarded her for a long moment, then did something that took Maya's breath away. It lowered its massive head and rested it on the ground near her feet, exposing the swollen side of its jaw in a gesture of complete trust. Maya's hands trembled as she reached into her field kit for her medical scanner. As the device hummed to life and began analyzing the creature's condition, she realized that this moment would change everything. She was looking at the first confirmed intelligent life form on Xerion, and it had chosen to trust her with its life.